Wow. Take a deep breath, New Zealanders. The All Blacks won that game by a single point. The headline is that the Scott Razor Robertson era is officially underway with a win. But that was a heart attack of a game from an All Black perspective. I'm going to break it down for you in this video, go through the key turning points in the match. Man, whoo! My heart is still pounding. I'll tell you what, though, the All Blacks showed incredible mettle in the second half, and they learned lessons at halftime. The talk that Robertson gave them really did the trick, because in the first half, they were falling into the English trap. They were still stuck in Super Rugby mode. But in the second half, they started to play this game like it was a test match. And that was what it was, a test match and a half, a classic enthralling encounter between these two teams. Whew, I was feeling it right from the anthems and the haka, that heightened emotion that comes with the first All Blacks game of the year. And not just that, the first All Blacks game since that 1-point heartbreaker against South Africa in the Rugby World Cup. New coaching staff, new head coach, new captain. Look, if you're a Kiwi, you were feeling all kinds of emotions in the build up to this game. And when it got going, you could just feel a little bit of nerves in both camps. Now, the first 10 minutes of the game, essentially the teams traded scrum penalties. No one was getting the advantage in particular. The All Blacks did monster the English scrum at one point, and that was a huge boost to see that the set piece efficiency was there. And then it didn't take long. It was about the 15th minute when we saw a vintage All Blacks attack, side-to-side rugby, incredibly fluent interplay between the forwards and the backs. Damian McKenzie playing beautifully, sometimes shoveling the ball deep, other times laying on flat. I'm talking about flat as a pancake passes to Scott Barrett, to Patrick Tuipulotu, just putting them in space with that flat short ball. McKenzie was varying his options nicely. And then he went for the crossfield kick to Sevu Reece. And I'll tell you what, the English, God love them, their defense was amazing, but it was borderline offside a lot of the game. They were really playing an outside-in defensive structure against the All Blacks, where it was like a wave just crashing on you. It was just kind of opening up this space in the backfield. McKenzie saw it. He put the crossfield kick in, and Sevu Reece went over. That was a critical moment in the game because it showed that the All Blacks were becoming aware of what the English were doing tactically with their defense, with that line speed. But also they were getting savvy to the fact that there was some space to exploit. One of the more controversial picks in the team really came up trump. Stephen Perifetta danced through the line to set up a try, and he looked excellent on attack. Wasn't really tested on defense too much, but he showed why Razor Robertson put faith in him. Pretty awesome display, cutting through the line on multiple occasions. And, it was interesting. It was almost like the English were daring the All Blacks to counterattack. Kick after kick from the English went to the back three of the All Blacks, but more often than not, they were kicking the ball straight to Damian McKenzie, and he was safe as houses under the high ball. McKenzie took, I lost count of how many high balls they put up for McKenzie. As far as I could tell in my notes, it seemed that he caught every single one. So the English didn't necessarily get much purchase out of that. But there were a couple of major takeaways from the first half. One is that the English rush defense, which came outside in, meaning they were pushing up in the wider channels, that was something that was putting the All Blacks under a lot of pressure, but the All Blacks were able to recognize that pattern, and they were able to kick and start to find space in behind the English rush defense. However, the English backs were absolutely scintillating. I thought one of the best players on the pitch today was Alex Mitchell, the English halfback. Varied his game beautifully, ran so well, and did form an exciting partnership with his number 10, Smith. These guys were running havoc at times. Honestly, And I think that a lot of Kiwis will be surprised by the width with which England played. I don't really want to say I was surprised because I watched the Six Nations and I just found that when England could get front foot ball, they have the backs to really play an expansive game. They're not quite there yet. There's still a little bit of inconsistency and a few flubs that you see. But generally speaking, I mean, they were able to get down the field really nicely with some backline interplay. And then for Maro Itoje to score, it was just a simple pick and go. They had made so many meters through their backs and their loose forwards that honestly, it seemed that each time they got within sniffing distance of the All Blacks try line, they scored. So it was looking very ominous at half time. 10-all, it was locked up. And I got to tell you something, the All Blacks were definitely playing super rugby at the end of the first half when they should have been playing test match footy. They were tossing the ball around almost touch rugby style, 40 meters from their own try line. You just felt like they needed to start playing territory. Stop flinging the ball around willy-nilly in your own half. Could have gone really bad for them there, actually. But they were able to correct this error in the second half. And that is the main glass half full takeaway I want to give New Zealanders, who were probably pulling their hair out of their head as they watched this game. Our set piece really wasn't perfect. There were a couple of line-out mistakes. More with Cody Taylor throwing, which was interesting. The line-outs actually looked a little bit more sure when Asafo Amur came on. A little bit surprising, but it happens. The main hopium I want to give you guys is that the All Blacks were able to adapt. They were able to vary their game plan and start playing territory in the second half. And they got a bit of fruit out of that approach. Because let's be honest, it was looking like we were heading for a famous English victory. You had Feyi-Wabos scoring a try after a few Cunningham South incursions straight up the middle of the field. He's a big boy. He spent some time in New Zealand. He's a big raw-boned athlete. Whew, he was getting some good penetration through the All Blacks defensive line. And man, I mean, my skin went cold. I'm thinking, is Razor Robertson going to drop his first game? Is this like the Foster years are continuing? Was Foster not the problem? Is there something wrong with the squad? These are all the paranoid Kiwi thoughts I'm having in my head. But there was just a little feeling of calm that came over me when I saw the bench getting emptied and I saw Mr. Beauden Barrett coming on. And I think that was a critical turning point in the game. Working in conjunction with Finlay Christie, who replaced TJ Perenara, who praying for a speedy recovery. He twisted his knee pretty badly. Scott Barrett actually fell on him. It was friendly fire just in a ruck. And TJ didn't look good at all. He was able to play the last couple minutes of the first half, even though he'd clearly dinged up his leg. So look, hopefully he'll be okay. But when Finlay Christie came on and then Beauden Barrett joined him, you started seeing the box kicks really coming off and you started seeing the kicking for territory start to work. And I said, thank God we're not trying to run the ball out from our own 22. This isn't Super Rugby, it's Test match footy. Damian McKenzie was good enough to kick his penalties when they counted, and we were able to get a 1-point lead over the English, which proved very damn important because when the full-time siren sounded and time was up, 1 point. 1 point was all we had. I'm going to talk to my therapist about this. That was a lot. But let's nitpick for a moment. We're New Zealanders. We want to nitpick. There were a couple of short lineouts that just didn't work. It seemed that there were some miscues and misfires in the All Blacks lineout. That could be very costly against teams like South Africa, Ireland, France. Hell, it was almost very costly against England. It could still be costly against England next week. The other thing I did notice was that the All Blacks attack looked a little bit like it was running out of ideas on a couple of occasions in the second half. And you'd see McKenzie putting up a kick sort of aimlessly. Not much in the way of follow-through with kick chase. So you're thinking, geez, we're just gifting possession back to the English. What exactly was the point of that? It really wasn't until Beauden Barrett was on and he was plugging the corners, not just aimlessly putting up bombs, but plugging the corners and playing territory, then you started to feel like the All Black machine was rolling again and that we were generally playing down the right end of the field. And given the fact that we mostly had ascendancy in the breakdown, just to my surprise, I actually thought the English might shade the All Blacks there. Anyone who's listened to this channel knows I'm a big fan of Ben Earl. I think their back row is excellent, England. But we may have just pinched the ball a couple more times and been a little bit more speedy to the breakdown through the likes of Dalton Papali'i. So, yeah, once we played territory, we started to look good. But listen, I can't sugarcoat this too much. We won by a single point. It was skin of the teeth type stuff. But you know what? It's a pass mark for Robertson because we won. We just needed to win. This team will be so much better for this. Look, at the end of the day, they lacked cohesion. This is always the story of the first All Blacks game of the year. Very rarely are they firing on all cylinders straight away. It just doesn't happen. You've got 5 franchises coming together. Not just that, but key players coming from Japan, integrating back into the team, new management, new coach, new captain. Let's give them a break, okay? They were a little rusty. They were a little discombobulated at times. It's to be expected, but overall they showed incredible mental resolve to hang in there by a point and get the dub. So very proud of that performance. In terms of standout players, I'm going to have to say that Beauden Barrett just underlined his worth. It wasn't one particular signature moment. It was just the general composure he brought. You felt a sense of relief when he trotted out onto the field. His brother, Ardie, was excellent. Great ball retention, some great runs through the midfield, and knew when to kick as well. He just seemed like a steady hand. Perifetta, I think, did well at fullback. I thought our wingers were excellent. Really inventive, live wire performances from both Sevu, Reece and Mark Talea. And I think Finlay Christie, I think he did show some real nous when he came on in the second half. And to me, the All Blacks just looked a little bit more assured with him at 9. Couple of monster scrums. Got to be happy with that. Got to be happy with our front row. Look, overall, a pass mark for the boys. It's about 2:30 a.m. in Portland, Oregon, United States, where I live, where I watch this game. But of course, I had to stay up to watch the first All Black game of the season. Come on, I would have my New Zealand citizenship revoked if I didn't. But let me know your thoughts. Were the All Blacks lucky or did they deserve it, albeit by a point? And let me just say, full credit to England. I mean, they played their hearts out. They almost won this damn thing. And we're in for a hell of a match next week. All right, guys. Whew, deep breaths. I'll be breaking down the Springboks Ireland game very soon, and I'll be back to comment on the All Blacks team next week. So, sweet dreams. Go the All Blacks. Thank God. I'll catch you for another one real soon. Take it easy. Bye for now. Whoosh.